Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews here, and it's probably not a surprise to you that many local governments and provincial governments across Canada are more and more seriously considering more strict restrictions and potential lockdowns in the coming weeks. And we've just seen Manitoba implement its strictest restrictions since March, closing a whole bunch of businesses and allowing them only to do curbside pickup. Restaurants are for takeout only, and even some religious services have been closed down, and same with gyms, and everybody's being forced to take their businesses online, much like that initial first lockdown in March. As for many of the other provinces and territories, we've seen an increase in numbers of reported cases, and as a result, there's more and more pressure on these political leaders to bring in restrictions of their own. Now, regardless of if you see these reactions as overblown or you think that it's not enough and they need to be doing more, we have to work in the framework that we're given. And now it's seeming like these restrictions are more and more likely to come into effect. So with this channel being a personal finance channel, today we're going to talk about the 3 things that you can be doing right now to prepare for this upcoming second lockdown that we could be seeing in many provinces. When that initial first lockdown happened back in March, we saw a huge rise in the unemployment numbers, and there was a lot of uncertainty around what was going to happen in terms of people's wages and their pay and what was going to happen to them financially. Remember, back then we didn't even know about the CERB, and now that's transitioned into the CRB and these other benefits. So at least we know we have this sort of financial safety net for a lot of people who might lose their jobs in this upcoming second lockdown. But despite the fact that a lot of people are going to be able to get these benefits, there are people who are slipping through the cracks. And even if you are somebody who's receiving these benefits, in this video we're going to talk about how you can best use these extra funds that you might have at your disposal right now to prepare for a time when there could be no benefits, which could be as soon as March if you've been applying for the CRB all along. Remember, you only have 13 periods or 26 weeks to claim it. So that's going to end very soon. And if we end up in a lockdown at the time when those benefits end, you're going to be thankful that you've taken these tips and these little pieces of advice now to prep yourself for later. But without further ado, the first thing that I would recommend that you do to prepare for this second lockdown and to be able to save a little bit of money going into this is to reduce your housing expenses by as much as you possibly can right now. Now, whenever it comes to saving, this is my number one tip to people because it's what most people get wrong. You'll see so many personal finance gurus out there saying you need to cut down on your costs of eating out. You need to cut down on your $4 Starbucks coffee. And while this all will make you more financially healthy and more financially stable, these costs pale in comparison to the amount of your income that you're now spending on your housing. Most Canadians spend more on their housing, that's their rent payments or their mortgage payments, than on any other category of spending. And we need to take a look at this category first in order to save the most money because, again, it's the biggest portion of what our income goes to each and every month. By taking action now on reducing these housing costs for you on a month-to-month basis, you're saving hundreds of dollars as opposed to saving $1 here, 50 cents there on some of these smaller purchases. Now, when you hear me say that I think you should reduce your housing costs, automatically people are going to think, okay, Russell's telling me to move to a cheaper place. And this is a good solution. I mean, if you're paying astronomical rent, say in a downtown core like Vancouver or Toronto, it could make sense to move to a cheaper place. But that's not the only way you can reduce your housing costs. If you're currently renting where you live, you could consider getting an additional roommate to help pay for the cost of your rent each month. As an example, if you're paying $1,800 for rent, getting an additional roommate could cut that in half and save you $900 per month, which just so happens to be half the amount of the CRB payment. So it's kind of like you're getting an extra half of your benefit each and every month by making this small lifestyle change. And the same goes for if you own your home and you're having to pay a mortgage each month. You could consider getting a roommate if you have an extra bedroom, or if you have a different section of your house you could potentially rent out. You could either do this to a long-term tenant, or you could use a short-term rental service like Airbnb. That's the strategy that I'm currently using, and it's referred to as house hacking, right? You're renting out part of your house to pay for the vast majority of your mortgage payments. For me, that's an Airbnb that I have in my basement second unit in my house. And it's actually been rather successful because there are lots of people who need to come to Canada for various reasons, and they need to adhere to these guidelines, the 14-day quarantine. So I've had a lot of people coming here to do that and to be safe and to keep other Canadians safe while self-isolating in a totally separate unit. Now, this might seem risky to some people, but with the proper precautions taken and proper cleaning protocols, it is really minimal risk, and it's helping a lot to pay the mortgage payments every month. And as a result, I can save a lot more. And as an added bonus tip, if you currently own your home and maybe you bought it a few years back and got a mortgage at the past mortgage rates, it could make sense to break your current mortgage and get the lower rates right now to reduce your monthly payments. But watch out, because there are mortgage repayment penalties if you are to repay or end this loan prematurely. So you're going to want to make sure that this cost for breaking your mortgage is outweighed by the benefit of having a lower payment with these newer interest rates. The second thing you can do to prepare for this second wave of lockdowns is prioritizing paying off any high interest debt you have right now. Now, that could be credit cards or personal lines of credit. Basically, any money that you owe right now, it would be a good time to pay that off right now. And this is actually an area that has been trending in the positive direction. Because of the benefits that a lot of people have been able to collect, they've also been able to save a little bit more and to pay off a little bit more debt. And this is definitely a positive trend that people are using this benefit money to pay off existing debts. Let's take a look at this Financial Post article that reports on this. Back in April and June, the average household only owed $1.58 for every dollar of disposable income it had, and that's a lot lower than what our typical numbers are in this category. And even just at the start of the year, it was $1.78. So we can see that the average household owes a little bit less. And it goes on to say that with people losing their jobs left and right and limited options for their fund money, Canadians have suddenly become much more conservative in terms of their spending. Families started stashing away 28% of their disposable income compared to less than 8% before the pandemic broke out. So it seems that people are saving a lot more of the money that they have that is extra and is disposable. But that being said, there are a lot of people who don't have any disposable income, and that's why it still needs to be a focus to pay off this existing credit card debt to prepare us for the second wave when you might need to rely on those lines of credit to help you survive. Now, I can already hear a lot of you saying, Russell, obviously I know that I should pay off my credit card debt, but how can I do this? I'm only receiving a certain amount for my benefits on the CRB, and that's what I have to live on. How can I pay this additional money to pay down my existing debt? Well, apart from using the money that you could save if you reduce your housing expenses and taking this money and reallocating it to pay off your existing credit card debt, there are more ways that you can make money. I know personally for myself, my house is quite cluttered with a lot of junk that I don't really use and don't really need. I've started considering more and more heavily selling some of this stuff either on eBay or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace just to make a little bit of extra money, pay off some of my debts, and use this money to save more and to invest more. Of course, this strategy has its limits. You can only sell things that you already have, but my guess is that you probably have some sort of piece of tech that you don't use anymore, or maybe some furniture that nobody ever sits in, never uses, that you could sell and at the same time as decluttering your house, make a little bit of money that you can use to pay off some of this debt to prepare you to get into this second lockdown that we could be seeing. And the third piece of information that can help you prepare is to recognize how important it is to set up an emergency fund for yourself. This is something that I recommend even in normal times, and with the current economic situation, it's even more important now. An emergency fund should ideally be around 3 months or more of your monthly living expenses, all in one place that you can access easily. This fund can absolutely save you if your income goes down to $0, which was the case for a lot of people who found themselves unemployed due to the pandemic. Even for people who have fantastic jobs and are making $100,000 plus a year, I recommend setting this sort of fund up because your job really isn't that secure. You can be fired at any time, and if you live the lifestyle of somebody who's making a lot of money, then you need to be able to sustain that for a time while you're looking for more work. And in my eyes, this should be a priority before taking any other positive financial steps, right? We want to pay off that credit card debt like we were talking about, reduce the housing expenses so that we can pay off that credit card debt, and so that we can create this fund. And this is something that should be done and saved and stashed away before you even consider starting to invest. Because again, with the strategies that I recommend, the idea for investing is that you're going to put money into whatever investment you're making, and you're going to hold that for the long term. You don't want to be be in the position where you're forced to liquidate an investment or sell all your stocks or sell off some real estate in order to use this money for your day-to-day life. No, we want to have that emergency fund ready and available so that we can leave our investments as they are and buy them and hold them for the long term. And of course, there are a whole lot of other things you could be doing too, but I wanted to focus today on these 3 things that I think you should put your attention on first before anything else. By reducing your housing expenses in order to pay off your credit card debt and in order to create this emergency fund, you're giving yourself some stability that most Canadians just simply don't have. But I want to know what you have to say about all this. Do you think that these tips I'm giving you are actually feasible for your situation, or is there some problem that I'm just not seeing for your individual situation that you would like me to touch on or answer some questions about? Let me know in the comments down below. Would these tips work for you, or would they definitely not? I always reply to my comments during the first sort of hour that the video is posted, so if you're seeing this and you're early, make sure to comment on this video and I'll be sure to respond to you. And if you found this video helpful at all, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I'm coming out with videos like this pretty much every day, so you're bound to learn something that can help set you and your family up for a more financially stable future. After all, that's what this channel is all about. And if you have somebody that you care about that could benefit from hearing these sort of financial tips, then make sure to hit that share button and send them a link to this video because it could make a huge difference in the next 3 months for them. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video has helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.